Hey there, my name is Brian Special, host of the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show and co-founder of Bright Angel Outfitters. You are just about to embark on one of the most spectacular hikes anywhere in the world, and one you will never, ever forget. All the planning and all the hard work you put in to be standing right here at the North Kaibab Trailhead is about to pay off. From here, if you have daylight, the trees are hiding the chasm you're about to drop into, and the trail you'll follow for 14 miles to the Colorado River, where you'll connect with the River Trail, and then finally the world-famous Bright Angel Trail. Your total distance? Right at 23.5 miles. More if you take the side trip to Ribbon Falls. So get your legs ready and your mind right, because you'll descend more than a mile, 5,780 vertical feet between here and the river, before a climb out to the South Rim that will cover right at 4,400 vertical feet. And don't discount the beating your legs will take on this downhill. Going down might seem easy, but it's taking more out of you than you know, which can come back to haunt you when you finally start to really climb 16 miles in the distance at Devil's Corkscrew on Bright Angel. What I'm here for is to be your guide along the way, to point out landmarks and features, and keep you updated on the progress you're making in your quest to reach the South Rim. So, the moment has finally arrived. It is time to get after it. Embrace the adrenaline and excitement you're no doubt feeling. And if you have daylight, be sure to stop just 0.7 of a mile down the trail at the Coconino Overlook for your first expansive view of the canyon laid out in front of you. We'll talk next at Supai Tunnel, which will be your first chance for water, assuming it's turned on because it's often not, and pit toilets. So, until Supai, happy hiking. Hike your own hike. It's time for your once-in-a-lifetime, or maybe more, Grand Canyon Rim2Rim experience. We'll see you at Supai Tunnel, just 1.7 miles down the trail. This is the Supai Tunnel rest stop. You've already dropped more than 1,400 vertical feet over just 1.7 miles from the trailhead. That's pretty steep. It's important to check your water supply here, because you won't have another chance at water until the Manzanita rest area, 3.7 miles and 2,200 vertical feet in the distance. That's assuming, of course, the water is turned on. You can never be sure, as the pipeline is often damaged and water can be turned off at any of the rest areas at any time without warning. That's why carrying a filter in the canyon is vital. You will have access to Bright Angel Creek starting at Manzanita, and it will be accessible in spots all the way to the Colorado River. This is as far as the daily tourist mule trains go on North Kaibab, so your next chance to see the mules will be at Phantom Ranch, if they're there when you are. You'll soon step through the actual Supai Tunnel, which is just down to your left. Geologically speaking, this is the canyon's Supai Formation, and the Supai Tunnel was blasted when the North Kaibab Trail was built in the 1920s. When you step through the tunnel, it won't be long before you spot the iconic Redwall Bridge way down below. It's 1.3 miles to the bridge from here, down one of North Kaibab's steepest sections, highlighted by its signature red dirt. When you get to the bridge, we'll talk again, because you'll be right on the doorstep of perhaps the most memorable stretch of trail anywhere in the Grand Canyon. We'll see you at Redwall Bridge. There won't be a sign, but you'll know when you're there. Welcome to the iconic Redwall Bridge, one of the most photographed sites on North Kaibab. Looking back, you can see how steep the trail was from Supai Tunnel. At this point, you've descended 3 miles from the North Kaibab trailhead and lost almost 2,200 vertical feet in elevation. This is the Grand Canyon's Redwall Formation, and from here, you'll do a bit of uphill climbing. Yes, uphill before descending again and beginning the long stretch along the limestone cliffs that has to be seen to be believed. The engineering it took to build a trail directly into the Redwall limestone is an achievement that is hard to fathom even 100 years later. This is the section that makes plenty of hikers very nervous, and if that's you, well, don't be alarmed. The Grand Canyon's corridor trails are well maintained and wide, even when it looks like it's impossible for them to be. And you're never in danger as long as you stay on the trails. If you're still a bit apprehensive, just stick to the canyon wall. You really do have nothing to worry about. Our next stop will be at Roaring Springs, about 1.7 miles from here. You'll eventually see the waterfall off to your left. And when you see the sign at the junction for Roaring Springs, turn us back on and we'll tell you about perhaps the greatest engineering marvel in the entire canyon. Enjoy this section. It is unforgettable, the eye of the needle. And we'll talk next at Roaring Springs. You've made it to Roaring Springs, the place that makes human life possible on the corridor trails at Phantom Ranch and on both the north and south rims. The waterfall you see is sourced from an underground aquifer deep inside the cliff you're looking at. And from that aquifer comes all the drinking water for all the places I just mentioned. If you order a glass of water at a restaurant on the north or south rim, this is where it comes from. Brush your teeth, take a shower. It is all water that originated right here at Roaring Springs. How cool is that? From here, some of the water is pumped through a 5-mile pipeline to the north rim. For the south rim, it's a more complex process. The water is fed by gravity all the way down to Phantom Ranch. Then it flows underneath the Silver Bridge, we'll point that out later, and makes its way all the way up the 1,300 vertical feet to Havasupai Gardens, again, all by gravity. It's only when the water gets to Havasupai Gardens that it meets its first pump house, and it's pumped the last 3,000 vertical feet to the south rim. The 12.5-mile Trans-Canyon pipeline is truly an engineering marvel, and it all starts right here at Roaring Springs. Okay, you're almost done with the steepest part of the descent on North Kaibab. In just 0.7 of a mile, you'll come up on the Manzanita rest area on your left, perhaps the nicest of all the rest areas on the corridor trails. Manzi will be a great place to stop and take a break. There are picnic tables there, shade, drinking water if it's on, pit toilets, and your first access to Bright Angel Creek. It's the perfect place to rest and recharge. So we'll talk again when you get to Manzanita. Welcome to the Manzanita Rest Area. In my opinion, it's the nicest rest area on any of the corridor trails. You've got pit toilets, you've got shade, a water spigot, picnic tables, and access to Bright Angel Creek just down the stairs. Manzi also marks what's really the base of the North Rim. The steep descent is over. From here, it's a very gradual drop of just over 2,000 vertical feet over the next 8.6 miles to the Colorado River. It will feel mostly flat, except for what's the bane of many canyon veterans' experience, the aptly named Asinine Hill, a short climb that's about 2 miles from here. At this point, you've dropped 3,641 vertical feet over 5.4 miles from the North Kaibab Trailhead. You're still just over 8 miles from Phantom Ranch, and about 18 from the South Rim. This next stretch of about 8 miles between here and Phantom Ranch can be extremely dangerous during hot weather because there are not many places to hide from the relentless sun. So if it's the middle of the day, please proceed with caution and make sure heat mitigation and staying hydrated and up on your electrolytes is a part of your plan. When you leave Manzanita, you'll almost immediately cross a bridge over Bright Angel Creek. The creek will be your constant companion the entire way to the river, though it's not always accessible. So if you need to filter water or get your clothes wet, be sure to do so when you do see easy access. This short section between here and Cottonwood Campground also gives you some great photo ops, especially with the small waterfall you'll eventually see off to your right. It's called Split Rock Falls. That can be a good place to get in the water as well, if you're so inclined. Okay, Cottonwood Campground will be our next stop. It's just about 1.4 miles from here. There's seasonal water availability and pit toilets there as well. When you get there, we'll talk about what's still to come, including the turnoff to Ribbon Falls. In the meantime, enjoy Manzanita, and we'll talk next at Cottonwood. Welcome to Cottonwood Campground. You're now just about halfway between the North Rim and Phantom Ranch, with about 6.8 miles and 1,600 vertical feet still to go. There are pit toilets here, as well as potable water depending on time of year and barring any disruptions. There's also an emergency phone and a ranger station. If the water's on, this will be your last chance until Phantom, though if you've got a filter, you will be able to use creek water. This is the last time we'll talk until Phantom Ranch, and there is still a lot to tell you. First, you're within a mile of the first turnoff to Ribbon Falls. There's still no bridge to Ribbon. It deteriorated to the point it had to be removed several years ago. So to get there, you will have to cross the creek and then figure out which of the many social trails to Ribbon will best get you there. It's not necessarily easy. There's also another way to Ribbon, which many say is easier. That involves staying on North Kaibab past the first junction, climbing Asinine Hill, and then taking the second junction near the bottom of your descent on Asinine Hill. This is also the spot where you could theoretically reconnect with North Kaibab if you took that first junction, thus skipping Asinine Hill altogether. I know it sounds confusing, but there is just no simple way to get to Ribbon Falls at the moment. If you decide to skip it, know that you will be able to see it from North Kaibab way off in the distance if you look closely enough. So again, there are two junctions to Ribbon Falls coming up. Both should be marked with signs, but those have a tendency to disappear, so you can never know for sure. And the second turnoff is considered by many to be the easier route. But the choice is yours, and if you make it, you will be rewarded with what many consider the highlight of their entire Rim2Rim adventure. Okay, between here and Phantom Ranch, you'll be going through what some canyon vets call the frying pan, a totally exposed section of trail that can be brutal in high temperatures, so please proceed with caution. After that, in just about 2.5 miles, you'll enter another of North Kaibab's most famous sections, the box. And you'll know it when you're there, because the canyon walls will close in on you, and it'll be just you and the creek for 4.5 miles that can seem endless, depending on how you're feeling. Well, Phantom Ranch will be waiting for you right at the end of the box. And somewhere in the box, by the way, you will pass the halfway point between where you started this journey and where you will end it. So 6.8 miles to Phantom. You got this. When you get to the canteen, you'll see picnic tables and a place to fill up on water. So maybe grab some of that famous lemonade and then fire us back up. Send a postcard by mule too, by the way. Just ask anybody down there how to do it, and they will point you in the right direction. And we'll tell you all about the history of Phantom Ranch when we talk again at Phantom and what still lies ahead as you get ready to finally start climbing your way out of the canyon. Enjoy this section, be safe, and we'll see you at Phantom. The iconic Phantom Ranch. You're now 13.6 miles and more than 5,700 vertical feet from the North Kaibab Trailhead, with just a hair under 10 miles and 4,400 vertical feet until you surface at the Bright Angel Trailhead. Phantom Ranch officially opened in November of 1922. The site had long been used first by Native Americans and as early as 1869 by white men, starting with John Wesley Powell's legendary exploration of the canyon by river. President Teddy Roosevelt was perhaps the Grand Canyon's most enthusiastic advocate. He declared the canyon a national monument in 1908 and camped right here during a hunting expedition in 1913, leading to the site becoming known then as Roosevelt Camp. When the ranch was being built, Fred Harvey Company officials intended to name it Roosevelt Chalet, but Phantom's architect, Mary Coulter, insisted instead on the name Phantom Ranch, after the nearby Phantom Creek and Phantom Canyon. The ranch has a capacity of around 90 guests per night, and as you probably know, is one of the toughest hotel reservations in the world. There used to be a swimming pool here, fed by the waters of Bright Angel Creek, but that was filled up in the early 1970s. Imagine what a sight that was. Here at the canteen, you might want to see what all the fuss is about with a cup of their legendary lemonade, or grab a bag of ice. Or you can even ask how you can mail a postcard from here that will be delivered to the Rim by mule train. All right, so here's what happens now. After resting up, you'll again head south. You'll see Bright Angel Campground on the other side of the creek to your right. All trails eventually end at an information kiosk. When you see that, you have a couple of options. If you want to dip your feet in the river, you'll go left here and follow the trail for a few hundred yards until you see a sign for Boat Beach on the right. That will lead you to a sandy beach on a calm eddy at the river's edge. A couple things to be careful about with the river. If you go out too far, the current is very strong and the water is always cold, no matter the time of year. It averages around 50 degrees. That's because the river is fed by the depths of Lake Powell through the Glen Canyon Dam, more than 100 miles upriver from here. After your side trip to the river, or if you skip it, you'll cross the creek at the kiosk that we talked about and immediately see a bathroom that has flushable toilets off to the left. And out front will be the last place to refill your water until Havasupai Gardens, which is just over 4.5 tough miles away. Next, you'll continue down this trail, past the mule corral on the right, and before you know it, you'll see the Colorado and be standing at the base of Silver Bridge. When you get to Silver Bridge, hit play again, and we'll let you know all about the climb up Bright Angel and how you can break it into manageable chunks. We'll see you at Silver Bridge. This is Silver Bridge, the little brother to the Kaibab Suspension Bridge, the Black Bridge, which is just under a half-mile upstream. Black Bridge was the first true bridge across the Colorado for hundreds of miles in either direction when it was built in 1928. The Silver Bridge didn't come along until the late 1960s. You'll surely notice a pipe that runs along the bottom of the 500-foot-long bridge you're looking at. That is the Trans-Canyon Water Line, carrying water from way back at Roaring Springs all the way to the South Rim. When you step on the bridge, you'll notice that its graded floor lets you see the Colorado more than 50 feet below for your entire crossing, which really makes this one of the coolest experiences of a Rim2Rim. On the other side of the bridge, you'll be on the river trail, which goes to your left and right. You will be going right. Go to the left and you'll connect with the South Kaibab Trail. This is the route the mule trains use because they cross the river only on the Black Bridge. When you do go right though, you'll be on what's officially known as the River Trail for about a mile, before you finally connect with the Bright Angel Trail at the River Resthouse. This whole mile-long section runs right along the river, so enjoy the views and the sounds of the roaring rapids. Oh, and when you come to the infamous sandy sections of the river trail, it's best to stay off to the side, where the sand is more compacted. It's not nearly as bad as some might make you believe. Eventually, you'll turn a corner to your left, and right there will be the pit toilets at the River Resthouse. They sneak right up on you. When you get there, or take a break in the actual rest house that's just across the creek, hit play again, and we'll tell you about where you are and how far you've got until the real climbing finally begins. Enjoy it. We'll see you at the River Resthouse. You've made it to the River Resthouse and the short walk down to Pipe Creek Beach on the southern bank of the Colorado. If you do go down to the river here, keep in mind that this can be a deadly section, with the fast-moving rapids having claimed more than one hiker over the years. If not, well, it's just about time to go to work. You're now officially on Bright Angel Trail, 8 miles and 4,380 feet below the South Rim. You'll meander along Pipe Creek for a while here and be treated to several creek crossings, which will vary in terms of getting your feet wet based on what the current flow is. There have been times when I've had no choice but to cross in water up to my shins, but typically you have better luck and the water is not flowing so strongly. After about 3/4 of a mile or so of a gentle incline, you'll come to the first significant uphill of your hike, and there will be no mistaking it. That will be Devil's Corkscrew, a steep climb up a twisted maze of switchbacks, and then a long and more straightforward uphill until you get to the top. When you do get to the top of this section, make sure to stop and look over your shoulder to the right. You will get a fantastic view of what you've just accomplished, and a great photo from high above the corkscrew itself. Okay, this next part is important. Just after the corkscrew, you're going to hit a section where you're led directly into a running creek bed, right into the creek, and you might think that you've lost the trail. You haven't. Just keep going, stay off to the side, especially to the left, to try to stay dry if you can, and you will eventually come out on the other side. You're not lost, trust me. Then it's a gentle incline to Havasupai Gardens, with Garden Creek now keeping you company for part of the way. When you start seeing the lush greenery, you're heading into Havasupai Gardens. Go past the big pump house on your left, and you'll soon see a water spigot and pit toilets. This will be a great place to top off your water and take a well-deserved break before the hardest part of your Rim2Rim begins. So we'll talk again at Havasupai Gardens. Enjoy the journey. We'll see you there. This is Havasupai Gardens. When you're standing on the South Rim, this is the long stretch of green that you see sprawled out far below. This is also where you'd catch the trail to Plateau Point, which is the most prominently visible trail when you're standing on the rim. There is water here and pit toilets as well. There's also an emergency phone and a ranger station. If you need them, follow the signs. This is probably the most popular place to take a break on any of the corridor trails, as you're just about halfway between the Silver Bridge and the Bright Angel Trailhead. To this point, you've covered right at 19 miles since dropping in on North Kaibab. You've gained just over 1,300 feet in elevation from the river. And now, it's about to get serious. You've got 4.5 miles to the South Rim, and over it, you will gain 3,060 vertical feet. This is the time you might consider breaking the rest of the hike into manageable chunks of 1.5 miles each. It's easy to do. Havasupai Gardens is, again, 4.5 miles from the top. In 1.5 miles, you'll be at the 3-mile Resthouse, where there are toilets and seasonal water. 1.5 miles after that is the 1.5 mile Resthouse, where there's again toilets and seasonal water. And 1.5 miles after that, you're having your picture taken at the famous Bright Angel Trailhead sign. As for Havasupai Gardens, this oasis was farmed by the Havasupai tribe for generations, with the last of them being forcibly removed by the Park Service in 1928, and the area was then named Indian Garden. It was only in May of 2023 that it was rededicated as Havasupai Gardens in honor of the Native Americans who still consider this land sacred. Okay, when you start heading up the trail, enjoy the gentle incline for 1/2 mile or so, because once the true incline begins, you will know it, and it will not let up again until your Rim2Rim is complete. Remember, try breaking the rest of the hike into 1.5 mile chunks. That makes the 3 Mile Rest House our next stop, a mile and a half from here. We'll see you there. Enjoy. You got this. You've just finished the first tough stretch of switchbacks on the upper part of Bright Angel. They're called Jacob's Ladder, and you're now at the 3 Mile Rest House. You are past the 20-mile point and have just 3 miles to go until you're standing triumphantly on the South Rim. Way to go! The 3 Mile Rest House has seasonal water up and to the right of the actual rest house, and the pit toilets are up to the right beyond that. Yeah, it is a bit annoying to have to do some additional climbing to get to them, but what are you gonna do? You've now covered about 20 and a half miles since leaving the North Kaibab Trailhead and have 3 miles and about 2,100 vertical feet to go. This is a good spot to turn around and soak in what you've already accomplished. This is also quite the historical site. Back in 2008, when the current pit toilet structure was being built, archaeologists discovered a circular roasting pit, once used for cooking plants and animals. They dated it as far back as 1400 BC, more than 3,400 years ago, when prehistoric hunter-gatherers roamed the canyon. It's obvious that Bright Angel Trail has long been a route below the rim because it follows the Bright Angel Fault, which allows for occasional breaks in the canyon's sheer cliffs. Okay, time for that next mile and a half chunk. You're now right in the middle of the toughest part of an ascent of Bright Angel. Next up will be the 1.5 mile rest house. Look forward to it. When you get there, you will have just one final push to go. So until then, hike your own hike, one foot in front of the other. Remember where you are and what you're doing, and imagine how good it's going to feel when you finally step foot on the South Rim. There is nothing like it. We'll see you at the 1.5 mile rest house. Well, you probably now know there's a reason so many folks loathe the last 3 miles of Bright Angel. It is hard, really hard. You are not alone. You're now 22 miles into your adventure and likely have reached the point that most of us do, no matter how many times we've done it. Telling ourselves, it's time to be done. It's time to get out of this canyon. Well, you've only got 1.5 miles to go, so rest up and get after it. There are pit toilets here, seasonal water, and an emergency phone just in case. Hey, did you know that the Bright Angel Trail was first called the Bright Angel Toll Road? Yeah, it's true. With mining being the big industry in the canyon before the Park Service took over in 1919, Bright Angel remained under the control of a man named Ralph Cameron, who would charge a toll of $1 for anyone who wanted to use his trail. The Park Service tried for years to wrest control from Cameron, but with no luck. And they became so frustrated that they decided to build a Rim2River trail of their own. So who knows? Without Ralph Cameron, perhaps the iconic South Kaibab Trail would never have been built. Okay, this is the spot where I bid you farewell. When you get to the top, you are just going to be way too excited to hear from me again. So as we say goodbye, let's reset what's left. Just 1.5 miles with 1,130 vertical feet still to go. Yes, it will be tough, but you can do it. There are 2 tunnels to look forward to mark your progress. When you come to the first tunnel, the lower tunnel, you're almost exactly 1 mile from the rim. At the second tunnel, you're only about 0.2 of a mile away. Be on the lookout for bighorn sheep. If they're out, you'll have a good chance of seeing one as you get closer to the rim. After the second tunnel, when you take the last switchback and head to the right, when you're almost done, keep going straight. You'll see a spur in the trail that veers off to the left, but be careful to not take that. Keep going straight when you get close to the end, and you will end up right at the Bright Angel Trailhead sign. Oh, and if it's during the day, you'll likely notice plenty of wide-eyed tourists and hear a lot of foreign languages as you get closer to the top. Try to avoid the temptation to get frustrated at the tourists who are just as excited as you are to be here. Pack your patience. They might not understand trail etiquette or what you've done today. I always just try to smile and feed off their energy. After all, we're really all in this together. So pack that patience and just enjoy the moment. Before you know it, you'll be surfacing on the South Rim. Even though you've still got some work ahead, let me be the first to say congratulations on your incredible accomplishment. I'm sure you will agree that all the preparation was worth it, and you might even be planning your next adventure even before the hard-earned canyon wobble even wears off. You'll probably know what I'm talking about tomorrow. My name is Brian Special. Thanks for having me along for a small part of your journey. This is your day. Feel free to revel in it and be emotional about what you've done. A Rim2Rim is serious business and it should be celebrated. You did it. Welcome to the world of the Canyon Obsessed.